So, chapter 19, Aristo. So, in this chapter, we saw more about the pronouns he and ele. We saw the charts for those, which really opens the door to a few other pronouns that we'll talk about that form very similar to ele, especially. And we also saw the imperative verb, something we've seen many times in translations prior to this, but we haven't seen in the grammar yet. So, imperatives, how to give direct commands, either in the singular or the plural, and how they vary according to conjugation. So, I don't believe there's any examples of that in this translation. And also the vocative case. So, one of the two minor cases that you still have to learn, the other being the locative. And this is used for direct address, right? Frequently paired up with an imperative. That also, I don't think we're going to see in this translation, but something to be on the lookout for too in the other translations that we do in this chapter. So I've highlighted some pronouns I want to look at. Two of them from the Hikai code pronouns, and one is not from ele, but it's another pronoun that forms very much like ele. It's only different in the neuter, nominative, and accusative singular. And the verbs, of course, are in red. So let's look at that first paragraph. Aristo vir miserimus est. Well, that's a terrible start. Quod vitam duram vivit. Pater Aristonus scriptor notissimus erat, qui in Graecia habitabat. Tragoedias optima scribebat. Aristo quod ipse tragoedias scribere volt, vitam quietam quaerit, sit uxor et vilia e obstant. Sad. So the first verb is est, right? So Aristo, that's a guy's name. And what declension is his name going to be, more than likely? Third declension, right? Doesn't end in US, doesn't end in A, but it's nominative singular, so it's probably third declension. Doesn't match a fourth or fifth either, right? So third declension, nominative singular there, Aristo. So Aristo, how sad? Very sad. A very sad man is. Aristo, a very sad man is. So Aristo is a very sad man, right? Quod vitam duram vivit. So quod here must be because. Can't be which because there's no neuter antecedent. Plus because is going to sound better here. So because vitam duram vivit. Right? So because he vivit, he lives a hard life. Because he lives a hard life. Pater Aristonus scriptor notissimus erat. So Pater Aristonus to be what case? We already said that Aristo is third declension. Aristonus, of course, is going to be genitive, right? Aristonus is the genitive form. So paired up with another noun that we're looking at with the of idea, the father of Aristo, a very well-known painter, or not painter, writer was. So the father of Aristo was a very well-known painter, right? If you remember at the very beginning of the course, it tells you that S frequently comes in the middle of a sentence, but more and more as you move along, you see that, as I told you at the beginning myself, that it actually very frequently also comes at the end of clauses. So that's exactly what we see here, right? So the father of Aristo, a very well-known writer was. He was a very well-known writer. Qui in Graecia habitabat. So relative clause, qui, who, referring to the father, right? Who, habitabat, was living in Greece, right? The father is masculine singular, so I need qui, not qui or quod. Tragodias, which not surprisingly is tragedies. So tragodias optima scribebat. So scribebat, he was writing or he would write, we could say here for the imperfect. Right? The tells me it's imperfect, of course. He would write or he was writing. Optimas tragodias, the best tragedies or very good tragedies or excellent tragedies. Kind of ironic since you're setting up Aristo's life as a tragedy here, I guess. Aristo, quod ipse tragodias scribere volt, right? So must be because Aristo is not neuter, right? So plus it'll sound better. So Aristo, because, okay, ipse, right? This is an intensifying pronoun adjective here. So Aristo, ipse, himself, right? So ipse is he himself, because it's masculine. The ipse form is masculine. And ipse, it's not ele or he, but it forms so similar to ele that it's worth highlighting here. So ele, ipse, right? Ela, ipsa. So because ipse, he himself, Walt wants the complementary infinitive Scraper wants to write tragedies. So because he himself wants to write tragedies, he seeks a vitam quietam, a quiet life or a peaceful life. So you have quiet time to think and do your writing. It's nice to have a quiet place to do your homework. Sed uxor et filia e absent, but his wife and daughter block him. Women, right? But his wife and his daughter absent block him. So absent takes the dative. So a is dative because it's the object of a special verb. A lot of verbs have prefixes, as this does. Ob as a prefix will take a dative in one way or another. Right? So there'll be a dative involved. So takes a dative here, a. So his wife and his daughter block him, prevent him. Okay, Galatea, uxor Aristonus, so the wife of Aristo. Right? Aristonus genitive again, paired up with uxor, wife. Uxor doesn't sound like a very complimentary word to mean wife, but it's a different language. So the wife of Aristo. Another word would be mulier, which doesn't sound any better. So Galatea, the wife of Aristo, amicos ad vilum semper invitat, or invitat. So the verb is invitat, so she invites, and the subject, of course, was Galatea. So Galatea, the wife of Aristo, invites, she semper invites, she always invites the direct object, which is not Wilam, that's the object of a preposition, but amico. She always invites friends to the house. And amico's friends, remember, that could be a mixture of males and females. It doesn't have to be all males. The only thing I know for sure is that's not amicas, and so it's not all female. So it's probably could be a mixture of males and females. So she always invites amicos, friends, ad Wilam to the house. Amici Galateae sunt tibicines et Kitaroidi. See, cursor right there in the middle of Kitaroidi. So the Amici Galateae. Galateae, of course, is what case? So genitive, right? First declension genitive, AE. Remember also the dative singular and the nominative plural are AE, but context normally makes it clear which is intended. Right, so here it's genitive, right? And it's paired up with amici, the word you're linking it to with the of idea. So the friends of Galatea are tibicines. So they are flute players, pipe players, and kitaroidi. So they play kitharas. So kithara players are stringed instruments. Right. If we have time and you remind me, I might show you a video of a guy playing the kithara. So the friends of Galatea are pipe players and kithara players. Okay, he amici, right? So he, the H pronouns, this or these, it's modifying amici here, which is masculine, nominative, and plural. So we have the he form because that's masculine, nominative, and plural according to that Heikai code chart that we've seen and you need to learn. So these friends in Villa Aristonus, so in the house of Aristo, semper cantat et Yokos faciat. So they always sing and Yokos faciat, make jokes. Right? Kind of thing you might want to find at a restaurant or a meeting place, but maybe not in your own home. Bunch of people hanging out, singing, making jokes. Aristo, amicos exoris semper fugit. So Aristo, semper fugit, he always flees the friends of his wife. He leaves the house, I guess. So fugit, that's our verb. The subject is the nominative Aristo. He flees. He flees what? The accusative, right? Which is amicos. The amicos exoris, the friends of his wife, and semper, adverb meaning always. He always flees the friends of his wife. Helena quoque, filia Aristonus et Galateae. So Helena also, filia, the daughter, right? Filia is his son, so filia his daughter. Then Aristonus, Galateae, both genitives that we saw above. So the daughter of Aristo and Galatea, Patrum vexa, annoys Patrum, her father, which of course is the accusative here, third declension. Remember what it'll be if it was plural? Patres, right? So she also annoys her father. Multo juvenes ad vilum patris invitat. So in Vita, she invites the accusative, multos juvenes, many young men, right? Multos is the first and second adjective. It's modifying a masculine, young men. So, of course, it takes a second declension ending. So she invites many young men, ad vilem patris, to the house of her father. Many young men. You know, once in a while I can understand, but many young men, she's out of hand, just like her, just like Galatea. So amici Helenae sunt poetae. So the friends of Helena are poets, are poetae, are poets. So the friends of Helena are poets, right? Poetae, of course, is what gender? Not feminine, it's masculine, right? Because most poets in antiquity were male, so it's a masculine noun. Even though it's first declension, it's still a masculine noun, right? Amici, masculine, poetae, masculine. So the friends of Helena are poets. You gotta watch out for those poets. I'll tell you anything. In Villa Aristonus, so in the house of Aristo, poetae versus suos recitant. So recitant, they recite. Who does? Poetae. The poets recite. The accusative versus suos. Their verses, right? The S pronouns, remember, are reflexive. They refer back to the subject, which in this case was poets. So the poets recite their verses. Right, versus, by the way, is what declension? That is a fourth declension, right? Fourth declension, long US, that could be genitive singular. It's not. Could be nominative plural. It's not. It's not the subject. Or it could be accusative plural, clearly, right? Suos also was a clue here that tells me it's got to be accusative plural. So it's clearly the direct object of recitants. Verses are recited. They don't do the reciting. Poets recite. That's my nominative. So poets recite their verses. Fourth declension, accusative plural. And what gender? Masculine. So versus, yeah, what verse? What's the gender of that? How am I supposed to know, right? Well, we'll look at suos, right? So first and second adjective has a second declension ending. Ergo, it's modifying a masculine, right? Aristo, host versus non amat. So Aristo doesn't, or I'm not going to be like or love. I'm going to say like here. He doesn't like these verses. He doesn't like these verses, right? Here's, should have highlighted that. I can grab that. Right, so masculine accusative plural, according to the Hikai code chart that you've seen, you definitely want to learn. So Aristo does not like these verses because they are scurriles, they are scurrilous, they're obscene. The nerve, right? Throw those guys out. Saipe, he poetae inter se pugnat. Often, he poetae, these poets. Again, poetae is masculine, so we have he, not hi, right? These poets fight among themselves. Get out of my house, dirty mouth young men, with your fights and your limericks. Saipe Aristo amicos filiae et vila expellit. Often Aristo expels, throws out the friends of his daughter from the house. Good for him. So often Aristo expellit, he expels or throws out. Who or whom? The accusative, amicus, the friends of his daughter, genitive, right? Paired up with it. A Wheela from the house. Wheela, of course, is ablative, object with assist base, E, which is short for EX. If Wheela began of a consonant, it would be EX. I'm sorry, began of a vowel. Began of a vowel, it would be EX. Okay, then difficula S Aristoni, so it is the adjective difficult for the dative, right? Third declension dative, Aristoni, and I. It's difficult for Aristo to do the infinitive, to live a vitam quietam, a peaceful life or a quiet life, like what he was looking for up here, right? It's difficult for him to do it because of his wild wife and daughter, poor Aristo. All right, well, let's see what happens with this family in this chapter. Till next time.